What is going on, people? Welcome to another episode. We're reviewing the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, not the Brazilian Grand Prix, Sao Paulo Grand Prix. Can anybody comment down below why this is the case? Okay, the Sao Paulo Grand Prix, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to discuss and chop it up. And you know what? Overall, I want to give the race weekend maybe like a 6 out of 10. The sprint race was actually a lot better than the actual race day itself. The sprint weekend that we had a lot of racing going from from the Friday up until the Saturday and Sunday as well. There was a lot of racing that's gone on. But of course, the breaking story and sort of the real highlight of this race day that was at Sao Paulo in Interlagos was purely Fernando Alonso making the podium for Aston Martin in a very close battle between Sergio Perez and Fernando Alonso. It was a great battle between the two. And we got some action at the end. It seemed like a race that kind of has so much expectation. The Brazilian Grand Prix is really loved, and it's always giving us some good action, always giving us drama in the Grand Prix. But this weekend, it was a little bit more subtle, a little bit more settled early on. As soon as Max took the lead and kept the lead ahead of the Grand Prix, that was that basically. It was all done and dusted. A lot did go on, but let's go through the teams and discuss these teams one by one. I mean, look, Max Verstappen wins his 17th race of the season, the most in a Formula One season. He's broken the record, okay, and he already broke the record when he'd won 16 in one season. But Max Verstappen there, unbelievable stuff. P1 had a good day, had a good race weekend overall. Qualified in first, finished the race in first. It's becoming very difficult to talk about Max Verstappen in a Formula One race. It's becoming very difficult to even try and pick something out. The only thing I will say is that it seems like maybe McLarens are catching them. Maybe the McLarens are catching the Red Bulls, because Lando Norris held his own in the first couple of laps, at least in the first stint anyway. And towards the end, Max just had about a bit too much for him, and that was that. So, but Max Verstappen nonetheless, brilliant as always. We're watching a legend in the making right here. 3-time world champion now. Absolutely amazing. And when you consider his teammate Sergio Perez, who we'll get onto, the kind of drive that Sergio Perez, the kind of driver that he is, he's no slouch. But Max Verstappen is absolutely dominating in that Red Bull. He's absolutely doing the most in that Red Bull. And yeah, we gotta acknowledge that there is absolute dominance and brilliance here from Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez, to be fair, when you consider how last weekend in Mexico went, and when you consider sort of the quali session that happened in Brazil, probably had a good race, a solid race, I would argue. If I was Sergio Perez, I'd definitely be more at peace with sort of how the last 2 weekends have gone. Yes, he missed out on the podium right at the very end, and I genuinely thought he was going to eat up Fernando Alonso. So I was quite surprised to see Fernando Alonso make that position stick right at the death. But Sergio Perez, I mean, there was some fight in him. There was a battle going on. Now, some could argue, is it embarrassing that Sergio Perez loses third place, loses a podium to Fernando Alonso in that Aston Martin? The Aston Martin has not been really good in a long time, and I can't wait to get to talking about them, because they've surprised us all. They've actually been very, very good this race weekend. But Sergio Perez, is a driver who just needs to now. He's doing what he can. He's get onto those podiums, cement that P2 in the Drivers' Championship, which he looks good money for at the minute, because Mercedes, Lewis Hamilton, we'll get to them, didn't have a good one at all. But Sergio Perez, at least he's finished the race. He kind of went there without a scar, and it was a very competent drive. So fair play to Sergio Perez, who finishes P4 and just outside the podium, just missed out, but still very solid points, at least for the championship on his case, at least P2. McLaren, let's get on to them. My beloved, where are we? Here we are. McLaren, my team right here. A mixed day, a mixed bag, I would argue, because Lando Norris was phenomenal. Had a great session, a great race day, considering what happened to him in qualifying. He qualified P7, Oscar Piastri P10. Not great quali by McLarens. Yes, they got caught out because obviously the weather on the Friday for quali for this race, the weather did completely disrupt a lot of things. And in fact, we had to red flag the session and close the session, end it early doors. because of the weather and the rain, the torrential rain that came. That's, lots of quotes were saying it was biblical. And so there you are. But yeah, the rain was absolutely incredible in terms of, the sort of how it interrupted the quali session. And yeah, so, unfortunately, not much that Lando could do, nor Oscar Piastri, who spun off as well, because he kind of came out last in terms of the qualifying runners and got caught in the weather badly. And in the end, having to qualify, he didn't even really do a lap time. He just happened to be P10. On the records, it shows he DNF'd in quali. I didn't know you could DNF in quali. So there you go. There he's qualified. He's qualified there. And but overall, McLaren. So Lando Norris, P2 podium business. Now you go back to last week in the Mexican Grand Prix. This is exactly what Lando Norris was hoping to achieve in Mexico. Had he not had a stinker in quali, had he not had the sort of the bad luck that he had during the race, he was climbing through the pack, and he was on for a podium. I think he finished P5 in the end, and it was a brilliant race all together. But this is what we were talking about. He starts P7, he finishes second, and he was so good off the start. It was a very good start from Lando Norris. He got a good start there, the McLaren driver, and completely dispatched the Aston Martins quickly, and looked brilliant against the Mercedes as well. I mean, the McLarens were the second fastest car in Brazil. Clearly on the Sunday, they were the second fastest. Now, Oscar Piastri, we go to the goodness of Lando Norris. By the way, fastest lap as well. So 19 points for Lando Norris. Very, very good drive from Lando. Oscar Piastri, had a very, very weird one. So caught unlucky at the start. There was an accident at the start, Albon and Magnussen and Hulkenberg and so on and so forth. There was a lot going on, a lot of commotion at the start of the race, and I think it was one of the tires or debris that kind of hit Oscar's rear wing, caused some damage into the car. It also happened to Danny Ricciardo as well. They both started a lap behind, basically. Had to start in the pit lane. They were a lap behind during the whole race. So Oscar's race was already over from lap one, and it was more so just about gathering data. I think McLaren just wanted to just see what the delta is, see what they can do, see how it can affect Norris's race. So having Oscar there, even though he knew he was not going to get any points, he was not going to climb up the grid at all, even though there was quite a few DNFs in the race, it was all about gathering data. And so Oscar it'll be a race for him to forget, but he can also look at it on another hand of the amount of information McLaren took in the end. And so Oscar I think ended up finishing 2 laps behind. So yeah, it wasn't a good day for Oscar. He was unfortunate. Quali, he sort of spun off because of the weather. So it was unfortunate. It was an unfortunate weekend for Oscar Piastri. It was a great day for Lando Norris, finishing P2, fastest lap on the podium again for McLaren. And yeah, McLaren are just racking up these podiums now, and it's amazing to see. It's so good to see. So that was McLaren's day in Sao Paulo. Mercedes, oh my God, what on earth has happened to Mercedes? George Russell retired the car quite late in the race. I can't remember what the issue was, but I know he retired the car. Something was not quite right. I think the engine was getting too hot, and it looked like it was about to just blow up if he didn't actually put himself away. But the communication with Mercedes, the communication with the team, the drivers, nobody kind of seemed to know what the plan was. George Russell was doing faster times in the race than Lewis Hamilton, and George was on the radio saying, "Look, I'm quicker. Like, do you want me to hold station? Do you want me to at least overtake and attack and try and get the cars ahead?" And the way that Mercedes pit wall was saying, "Look, we're looking into it." They were not really sure what to do. The number one thing was they had an awful car this weekend, an absolute shocker of a car this weekend, and that was the main thing. That was the main talking point there, because at the end of the day, they were nowhere near the McLarens. They were not even near the Ferraris. They were awful. Lewis Hamilton finished P8. George Russell did not finish rather. And yeah, it was a bad day at the office for Mercedes. I'm sure both drivers cannot wait to see the back of this W14. Most Mercedes fans cannot wait either to see the back of this W14. It's been a terrible season, really. I mean, they're P2 in the constructors, and that's very good for them, don't get me wrong. And Lewis, with everything that's gone on with this car, he was close. He's very close to P2 in the Drivers' Championship behind Sergio Perez. But I think Sergio Perez now, I think he's cemented that P2 spot for next and kept his seat for next season. But yeah, it just wasn't a good day. I mean, Hamilton finished behind Gasly and Sainz and both Aston Martins. It was a bad day at the office for Mercedes. They just need to really shake down. And when you look at Toto Wolff as well, his demeanor, his behavior, seems very much a man that's really like, just put me out of my misery and let's get out of this season and let's start again. And, whatever Mercedes needs to do to pick themselves up, it's going to be, it's going to take some doing. It's going to take quite a while to work out what exactly is wrong. It's too much of a temperamental car. It's a car that one weekend it will look very good. It will look impressive. And it's a car another weekend that you just ask yourself, what on earth is going on here? So Mercedes did not have a good day at the office, and neither really did Ferrari. Ferrari, I mean, Charles Leclerc, the most unlucky driver on the grid. One could argue, and with Ferrari, my thoughts on Ferrari. What can go wrong will go wrong. I mean, to see Charles Leclerc spin out in the formation lap, the hydraulics had gone, the power steering had cut out. In the formation lap, and you just wonder, my goodness, what's going on? Carlos Sainz as well, arguing and saying, we need to sort of get rid of this clutch when we get back to Maranello, because clearly the clutch he wasn't too happy with. So Carlos Sainz wasn't happy. He finished in P6, still got a good amount of points there, 8 points for Carlos Sainz. Charles Leclerc DNF did not even start the race. It was a horrible one, and we're watching the sort of the live feed. And you can see sort of photographers trying to get in Charles Leclerc's face and, take pictures and whatever else. And the crazy thing is there was a red flag early doors because once the race started, Albon, Magnussen, Hulkenberg got into a bit of a pickle, got into a big accident into turn one, and they red flagged the session. And so you sort of seen a bit of a glimmer of hope for the likes of Charles Leclerc to get back in that car and try and, make something out of it. However, it was not going to happen. The car was too damaged. The issue that they had to fix was a big one. So when they take that car back to Italy, they're going to do a lot before the Las Vegas Grand Prix. But yeah, terrible day for Ferrari. Let's talk positive now. Aston Martin steps to the stage. Phenomenal scenes, Jeff. I mean, Aston Martin did very, very well. What a weekend it's been for them. I mean, they've had a horrible second half of the season. It's not gone well for them. The trajectory has been awful. It's been bad. It's been shocking since they've been doing these upgrades on their car, and it's just not worked out. However, quali, because of the weather, as I mentioned, with the mistakes that happened with Piastri and Norris, Stroll in third place in qualifying. Yeah, this is in the qualifying section. Stroll third, Alonso fourth. I mean, what a turn of events, and the Aston Martin were good value for money in the race, by the way. My driver of the day, Lance Stroll, finished P5 because I did not expect him to be anywhere near there. Even though he started P3, I thought, look, the Mercedes, the McLarens, the whoever else, Ferraris will dispatch Aston Martin from the jump. And they didn't, Well, in the beginning, they kind of did. Like, they lost both Alonso and Stroll lost a few places at the end there. But, they still held their weight. I mean, Alonso, as we spoke about earlier, they're just phenomenal drive from him. It was fantastic. I think he won between him or Norris. I can't remember who won the driver of the day officially. But, sorry, for me, it was Lance Stroll. Put in a solid performance. And it's a solid performance I do not expect of Stroll. That's the reason why I'm saying it was solid. It was a very good performance because I do not expect this. The demeanor I get from Lance Stroll is a man who doesn't want to be in Formula One. That's what I get from him. So the fact that I see him performing in the car the way he did this weekend was brilliant. And the Aston Martin really came alive in this Grand Prix. And it was actually good to see. Look, I'm a McLaren fan. I want to finish above the Aston Martin, but it was good to see Aston Martin show up to the table, have a conversation with the likes of Sergio Perez and stuff like that. Very, 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 very good stuff from Lance Stroll. And Fernando Alonso, we talked about it, the overtaking, the fighting with Sergio Perez at the end, the fact that he held his own, and the fact he's got a podium, first podium since, I think, Zandvoort it was. And Checo hasn't had a podium since Monza. You're probably thinking, well, surely Checo needs to get that podium in, but Fernando Alonso, it just shows why he's still one of the greatest. He's one of the greats. There's a reason why he's not out of Formula One. I remember when he returned back to Formula One, almost like the fourth time round. It feels like he's always returning. He came back, and a lot of people, I think, were very much like, come on. When he came back to join Alpine, it was very much like, come on, why is he still here? Can we get some new blood into Formula One? But I'm sorry, the skill, the talent is still there. Fernando Alonso, at his age, I think he's 42 or whatever, 43. And at his age, he's still doing phenomenally well. And there's no reason why he should be out of Formula One. He deserves his seat. I mean, you look at the amount of podiums he's had this year. You look at the amount of points that he's had this year. It's been nothing short of phenomenal. I mean, Fernando Alonso is fourth in the championship, 198 points. And Lewis Hamilton has 226 points. So when you look at it like that, he's been phenomenal. He's had a phenomenal season, regardless of how this is ending for Aston Martin. He's had a brilliant season. Fernando Alonso can hold his head up high. It was a fantastic race, and he celebrated. I mean, you're looking at my green screen there. He celebrated like a man who's won the championship. That's the kind of vibe that he was on, and even I was there, like cheering it with him, because I could feel, it was the earning of that podium place. He had to really fight for that podium place because he lost it, didn't he? He'd lost it just before the end to Sergio Perez, and we thought, okay, Sergio's going to overtake and go clear. But this time round, Alonso was not having it. He fought back, all the energy, fighting and defending like a lion, as he would say. He fought back hard, and in the end, earned his podium. And so credit to Fernando Alonso. Fantastic drive. It was good to see. If you're a Formula One fan, this was good to see. If you're a neutral, it's great to see. And if you're an Aston Martin fan, of course, this was happy days. Alpine, interesting one for Alpine. Pierre Gasly P7, Ocon P10. So double points finish for Alpine, which is good. It's not happen often. But Pierre Gasly, man, overtaking Lewis Hamilton. I mean, this sums up what Mercedes was doing, but Alpine looking good in Brazil, and it was very good to see, Gasly. The car wasn't quite. Thing is, the car's not quite there. It's still got a long way to go, but it worked. This situation worked for them. The circumstance worked for them. Ocon as well, got in the points in the end. There's a lot of DNFs, don't get me wrong, but not many that might have affected Ocon or might have affected Gasly. But Gasly was the man of the match for Alpine for sure. In terms of just like his performance, 6 points he's gathered. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how many more laps, but he was ready to go for science in that P6. So, he dealt with Hamilton, he dealt with Russell, he had dealt with Tsunoda. It was really good stuff there from Pierre Gasly. And yeah, Ocon solid, at the end of the day, yeah, got 1 point, but double point finish for Alpine is a good day, in my opinion. Yeah, mixed bag here not even a mixed bag. This is a bad day for Williams. Albon caught up in that collision at the start of the race. So unfortunately, his race ended very, very early, and the car was too damaged to be fixed. And then Logan Sargent, P11, just missing out. The American just missing out on the points there for Williams. And, it's a big one because it's really, really important for Sargent to actually get points in the team. And at least, for himself, because his drive for 2024 is under pressure. We can't argue that. His drive for next season is definitely under pressure. And so, it's going to be one of those races, a couple of races that are left. We're going to have to really see something, really out of the blue from Logan Sargent. The Williams is good on the straight. And we go to Las Vegas next, where it seems that there's a lot of straights. And I know AlphaTauri have had the pace. This pace has suddenly come alive in the last couple of races. And, Williams now, I think the gap, is it 7 points is the gap between AlphaTauri and Williams, which is, it's not safe for Williams. But I think 2 races to go. I think Williams will just get over the line. The momentum is swinging AlphaTauri's way, but, anything can happen after in a race weekend. And when we've got this gap as well, you never know what could go on behind the scenes with Williams, especially. Williams just don't need to have any more bad luck. If they don't have the bad luck, they'll be fine. They'll finish in the Constructors P7. But yeah, AlphaTauri are breathing down their neck. And Williams. It was a bad day at the office, really. No points scored. Albon retiring early doors, turn one, unfortunately. It must be one of the most painful things is to have an incident at turn one of a race, lap one, turn one. You're buggered. Like you're just sort of like almost like, why am I here? AlphaTauri, Yuki Tsunoda, P9, solid, strong, learned from his mistakes in Mexico. The car has been fast. It's been gathering a bit of pace of late. And so good stuff for Mr. Yuki Tsunoda, finishing P9 there. Danny Ricciardo, unfortunately, mixed bag for him because he got caught up in the turn one melee where a tire hit his rear. I mean, he was very unlucky. Tried to dodge it as well. But yeah, the damage was done. Same like with Oscar Piastri's car. Danny Ricciardo's damage was done, and unfortunately, the pace was there for AlphaTauri. The pace was there for both drivers as well. So it was a shame to we didn't get to see what Danny could do really in this Grand Prix. But Yuki Tsunoda learned from the mistakes of last week. He was solid again, and this time got the points. And the thing is, as well, there was a moment he was overtaking. I can't remember who it was now. It might have been Ocon, where he was making an overtake. He was planning to do an overtake, and this time around, he was a lot more measured. You could see him even sort of backing off a little bit, just so he doesn't have, obviously the Mexico crash is sort of ingrained in his head still from last weekend. So credit to Yuki from learning from that mistake for sure. And yeah, Alfa Romeo, it stunk. Double DNF, it absolutely stunk. Alfa Romeo have been smelling for a very long time. I don't know quite what's going on with this team. I don't know why they are as bad as they are. They're P9, the constructors, with only 16 points. And yeah, I can't really say much about that. There was not a lot of action of the Alfa Romeos. I'll say this though. Valtteri Bottas, you're starting to annoy me is not the right word, but you're starting to make me ask the questions. Why on earth are you still here? Because it feels like he's not trying. It feels like he's not trying in that Haas, and I'm trying to work out why. Why are we not getting a Bottas that's got that hunger, that passion? It's almost a bit like Kimi Räikkönen-ish, especially at Alfa Romeo. Do Alfa Romeo like to recruit these kind of people? Is that what seems to be the case? Zhou Guanyu, I know he had an issue quite early doors, and he's doing what he can in the Alfa Romeo. The Alfa Romeo is not a good car. I'm praying and hoping to God that the Sauber next year, and if not the Audi the year after that, I'm praying and hoping that maybe, there's something about them. Can I get like a Aston Martin resurgence? Can I get a McLaren resurgence at least? You know what I mean? Like something, Alfa Romeo. Give me something in this race. But yeah, they double DNF. They had a shocker of a day. Haas, Magnussen had that accident. Hulkenberg kind of got back on the racetrack because he was also part of the collision there. But lap down wasn't a great day for Hulkenberg. I think he finished P12. So he didn't really have the greatest of days. Haas haven't really had the greatest of days, to be fair. And they're kind of the teams, the Alfa Romeos and the Haases. They're the kind of teams that I kind of just want to wrap up this season, let it be over and done with. And it's not been the greatest. But yeah, overall, the Grand Prix, I think when you consider how it all went, I'd give it a 6 out of 10, just because it didn't live up to the expectation that I know Sao Paulo to be, that I know that the sort of the Brazilian Grand Prix always gives us, extra bit of juice, a bit of entertainment, a bit of spice. So it's been one of those, and we look forward to what's going to be a Las Vegas Grand Prix. Just going to get into the comment section very quickly. Because everyone that's actually watching right now, smash a like on this video if you like Formula One content like this. I will do lives every Monday, live streams every Monday at post race when it's on a race weekend, and then I've got videos coming out, actual edited videos out every single Wednesday, and then maybe depending on how it goes, maybe some Fridays as well. But Erdem says Alonso wanted polish himself. I'm guessing you're saying he wanted to sort of, yeah, he did. He definitely wanted to dust himself down, because the Alonso that we got used to at the start of the season, we were loving it, we were drinking it in, and then Aston Martin just faded as these upgrades came. We didn't know quite what was going on with the team, and we were not seeing Alonso for ages. We were trying to find out where is he. And it was a race weekend. I can't remember what it was. It was early in the season, or like at least midway, where he wasn't getting a podium, and he's like, that's the last time I don't get a podium. We didn't see him get a podium again for a very long time. And as mentioned before, his last podium was in Zandvoort, and now it's like, okay, he's here. I don't believe that Aston Martin is back. You know, I just think this racetrack for some reason suited them. I don't believe that they're back. I don't, you know, we have to wait and see. Let's see how they perform in Las Vegas. Let's see how they perform in Abu Dhabi to know what's what. They had a great weekend nonetheless, though. I think it's a one-off, but this is a great weekend nonetheless. I'm not going to sort of punish them for that. This is their time to shine. Alonso has definitely polished himself. So has Lance Stroll as well. Big up to Steflo. Hope you're doing well, brother. See you on the stream as well tomorrow for McLaren Fan TV every single Tuesday at McLaren Fan TV on YouTube. Make sure you go check that out every Tuesday, 7 p.m. UK time. Steflo says, but what about them? What at Alpha seems like they can push the team forward? I think they slide backwards. So your argument there is, you know, what do the Alfa Romeos like? Really, what should we be expecting from Alfa Romeo? You know, is this a team that can push on, and if they can, in what capacity? Look, I think the thing is that the grid is a lot closer than what we've been accustomed to over the years. I mean, I was looking at, was it even Q3, or it was even during the race itself, it was like from a certain position, there was about 15 cars that were like less than a second apart, or like less than 2 seconds apart. And it was just a bit like, this is incredible. Like the cars are really, really close up. It might have even been the sprint race, but like the cars were really, really bunched up close together with cost caps and everything else involved. What we've seen from the Aston Martins as well, what we've seen from McLaren when they've not been doing so well. We've seen teams, if they get the right pieces in place. I mean, look at Williams, right? Williams were dead in the dumps. You know, P10 without a glimmer of hope. They turned up to a season one time without having a car ready for testing. Like they were in the mire, but the right people in place. Yes, they've had investment. Yes, they've had people come into that team. But we need, you know, when you've got competent people in competent places, anything's possible. You look at the surgence of a Williams, and I know it's only up to P7, but still, I mean, this team was doing awful beforehand. Williams are now doing really good by their standards of the last 5 years, for example. Alpha, we just need to see some sort of ambition. We're getting nothing from them. And it's been like this for ages as well. So, you know, the Sauber teams of like Ericsson and Nasser and people like that, like it's been like this for a long time. You know, it's been like this. And it's, you know, maybe Charles Leclerc being in that Alfa Romeo when he was there in 20, he was at 18 or 19, 18, you know, it made Alfa Romeo relevant when really it shouldn't have. And I know Kimi Räikkönen has been there and so on and so forth. But I expect more from Bottas, personally speaking. I expect more from Bottas. Maybe the car, maybe this is why they had to get Audi involved. And maybe 2026, we see a team and be like, you know, this could be another Aston Martin. It could be another McLaren in terms of resurgence. Or even like a Ferrari from what they were in 21 to 22. But yeah, I just want to see something. You know, like Haas, it's almost like, we know they don't have the resources. We know that they're kind of limited, and they need a real boost in order to actually compete and do well. But we've seen Haas as well do well beforehand. Like I can't remember when Alfa Romeo done well. I genuinely cannot remember. So that's my issue there with the Alfa Romeos. Erdem says, I mean, I guess there is an incline with the performance of the car for sure. We can see from Strollonzo's performance as well. He finished fifth, for goodness sake. Yeah, absolutely. The Aston Martins did well, did very, very good, especially on this day, you know, especially on this race weekend. They did phenomenally well. So at the end of the day, let's see it in it. Let's see how they get on in Las Vegas. Let's see how they get on in Abu Dhabi. They will definitely need to go back to the drawing board to an extent in the winter, just to kind of find out like what works, what doesn't work, you know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. So let's wait and see. Steflo says Aston Martin had their new technical director from Red Bull and Alonso. Williams has Vowles and Albon. Alpha has Seidel, I guess. Bottas under-delivered, and Joe doesn't move the needle for me on a consistent enough basis. I can't disagree with you there. I can't. I want to see Joe do well. I definitely want to see him do well. Bottas, that's more so my sort of criticism of the team is more so there. They've recruited Seidel. Let's see what he can do with this team. And James Key's going in there as well, isn't he? So it's going to be interesting. Let's see how they get on next year. I just hope they're not like, I don't want to see a team just be at the back and chill. It just feels like that's what they're doing. And there's no real, like, I don't know. I'm not hearing anything from these guys. There's nothing. They're not getting the TV coverage. They're not getting any airtime whatsoever. And, maybe because that's just because they're not good enough. And that is the case. But as you said, look, Aston Martin, they've put the pieces in. So too have Williams, So yeah, it's they have to take a leaf out of that book at least, At least there's somebody that they can look at and say, this is how you get it done. Big up to everybody that's watched the stream today. Thank you very much for joining me. Make sure you smash a like on the video. If you like Formula One, if you like live streams like this, especially post-race, I'd love to do them more often. And as well as, Formula One content on this channel in general. If you like that sort of stuff, comment down below and also smash a like on the video. And before I leave, I'll leave it with this last comment here. Erdem says, also, we should really pinpoint how Alonso held Perez back for more than 20 laps within the DRS distance. It was phenomenal. Erdem, it was phenomenal. It was really, really good driving from Alonso. He should have got driver of the day, really, because the defending was phenomenal. The defending was like a lion, as I was pointing out there. He defended so well. He probably frustrated the hell out of Perez. Perez said he enjoyed it in the end because you know what? We saw two world-class drivers, fight fair, fight aggressive enough, fight really on the line. We really saw what a Formula One driver's expertise looks like. And, there were moments when, I was clenching and I was like, oh my God, they're going to hit. But it was just all great sort of battle in the end. But yeah, Alonso keeping that Aston Martin up against that Red Bull, it's nothing to snigger at. It was a phenomenal drive. But listen, if people didn't know this, Alonso's a bad man. He's the bad boy in Formula One. And if people didn't know this, they need to get to know. In fact, you're too late. You can't even join the party now. This guy's been doing it for how many years? How many decades it's been. But big up yourself, Erdem. I appreciate you coming on and subscribing. Big up to everybody who has been joining me today. Make sure you smash a like. Comment on the video as well. Make sure you comment. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about this race. As we head on to Las Vegas, that will be in 2 weeks' time. So I'll be doing a stream on Monday, 2 weeks after the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Big up to Steph as well. If you're a McLaren fan, people, make sure you come and join me at McLaren Fan TV on YouTube. We're doing live streams with my co-host Mahad every single Tuesday, 7 p.m. UK time. So make sure you come and join us. We'll be talking all things McLaren tomorrow. But yeah, this was a day to celebrate for. If you're a Max Verstappen fan, a day. If you're an Alonso fan, Aston Martin fan, this was your day. And a Lando Norris fan, of course, this was your day. Until next time, I'll see you then. Until then, peace.